Zombie Apocalypse.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 mysteries that are still unsolved. We all know that in the world, there are many mysteries going on all the time, but some mysteries are just too weird to actually believe. Well, not only are these mysteries things that really happened, they're still unsolved to this day. But before we get into it, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too? Now, coming up first, we have the Circleville letters. In 1977, a woman named Mary Gillespie was married to a guy named Ron. Now, Mary was the school bus driver, and she began having an affair with the school's superintendent. Now, this was something they were keeping very secret from Mary's kids and her husband Ron. But one day, Mary began getting very odd, scary letters in the mail. These letters were all totally anonymous, but they were very angry. And it seemed from the letters, someone had figured out she was having an affair with the school superintendent. In the letters, they were telling her to call it off, and she didn't know who was sending them. Now, you may think maybe it was her husband Ron sending the letters trying to get her to stop. But later on, her husband Ron began getting these exact same letters. They were all different letters, but they were all very angry and anonymous. Ron tried to ignore these scary letters for a few weeks, but eventually he had enough. He told his kids he was going to go and confront whoever he thought was writing the letters. But before he could get to whoever thought was writing them, his car hit a tree and he passed away instantly. Now, fast forward about 5 years later, Mary had remarried the superintendent. Now that they were married, she had nothing to hide and her husband was no longer alive. But then all of a sudden, all of these years later, she begins getting the same letters again. The letters were still very angry and all anonymous. One of the key suspects is her former brother-in-law. But it was later found out he did not fit the bill and was not the person sending the letters. To this day, the letters are still completely mysterious and no one knows who actually sent them. And more to the point, how did the person find out about all these secrets in Mary's life? Next up is Meet Rain. We've all heard the phrase, "It's raining cats and dogs." But one spring day in Kentucky, USA, it actually did rain meat. This happened all the way back in 1876 on a small settlement in Kentucky. There was a weird weather phenomena in the daytime, which was a downpouring of meat. All of this meat randomly fell from the sky like it was rain. Now, two very brave and also kind of gross men actually did try and eat the meat. They said it tasted like mutton or venison, which is like deer. But no one knows exactly how meat rained from the skies of Kentucky. Some say this meat could be the remnants of an alien abductee. But weather theorists say the most likely explanation is buzzards. They said that meat was vomited up by buzzards who were flying overhead. But that doesn't really make sense unless there was a lot of buzzards. It wasn't like meat falling from the sky, this was really like rainfall. So either there was hundreds of buzzards vomiting meat or there was some other mysterious explanation. Next up is Flannan Isles Lighthouse. Maybe it's just me, but lighthouses have always kind of creeped me out. There's just something about that eerie light in the night while ships are sailing by. Well, if you're not creeped out by lighthouses, you will be by this one. This event took place on the Flannan Isles in 1990. One winter's night, a passing ship realized the lighthouse wasn't operating as normal. A team was sent out to see what was going on, but when they got there, they were very creeped out and also very confused. That is because the three men who manned the lighthouse were nowhere to be seen. They had completely vanished, and the scary part is, they never returned. That's right, the three lighthouse operators were never seen again and it's not known what happened to them. Some say some kind of ghoul or spirit came and took them all away. Others say that some person pushed them off the lighthouse and into the water. But to be honest, there's no definitive answer to what happened to these three guys all those years ago. Next up is Bella in the Witch Elm. For those who don't know, a witch elm is a type of tree which has a very thick trunk. One day in 1943 in the UK, four boys made a very scary discovery. They were playing and having fun in the woods as kids do when they stumbled across something scary in a witch elm. They found a skeleton hidden in the hollow trunk of a large witch elm tree. Experts found the woman's skeleton had actually suffocated inside the tree. Now, this was a big mystery when it happened in the 40s. But things got even more weird a few years ago. That is because in Hagley Hall, Worcestershire, where this happened in the UK, there was some graffiti that cropped up. It very eerily said, "Who put Bella in the witch elm?" Of course, whoever wrote this is posing the question in relation to what happened in 1943. But does this person know something? No one's come forward saying who spray painted this, so who knows? Next up is Roanoke Colony. So this is a really historical mystery which is so fascinating. This one goes all the way back to 1585. And it's also one of the most famous disappearances in history because it's not just a disappearance of one person. Instead, this is a disappearance of an entire settlement. Roanoke Colony was established by the British Empire back in 1585. It was their first attempt at a community in North America. Now, the community was all set up and it was all going fine. But a few months later, when the British Empire went back to check on their community, it was gone. Despite the settlement having over 116 inhabitants at the time, it was all of a sudden disappeared. The people on the mission to check on the status of this settlement were baffled. But things got even more strange when they found one word written onto a post. The word Croatoan had been carved onto a wooden post. You may remember this if you've watched American Horror Story. But right now, no one knows what the meaning of Croatoan is, and we probably never will. Some say it could be an old-fashioned word for supernatural, which could explain everyone in this town vanishing. But because this is such an old mystery, we probably will never know. Next up is Chimney Boy. This one took place in 2008. One day, a teen named Josh Maddox went out to run an errand. But his dad got very concerned when he didn't return home. This remained a mystery for 7 years. That was until his skeleton was found in the chimney of a historic cabin nearby. Experts looked into it and he showed no signs of a struggle. And they also found his knees were above his head and his hand was covering his face. This meant that he'd actually been climbing up the chimney, not climbing down. This is also backed up as the chimney's opening had been clamped shut. They also realized the only clothing he was wearing was a t-shirt. Now, there are some theories as to what happened to Josh. The most popular one is that his buddy took his life. That's because he did actually have a friend who went on to take various lives. But scarily, we'll probably never know the exact truth. Next up is Gary Mathis. One night in 1978, Gary with 4 friends went to a basketball game. After the game, the 5 friends all went to a convenience store. But scarily, this was the last time anyone saw them alive. Days later, their car was found abandoned on a dirt road. Then a few more months later, 4 of the bodies were found 20 miles from the car. But the scary thing is, the body of Gary Mathis has never been found. Some say Gary went crazy, took his 4 friends' life and then fled. Others say that Gary was also a victim, but they just never found his body. But really it's a mystery which is yet to be busted. Hopefully one day a detective can revive this cold case and find out what really happened to Gary. Next up is the Doodler. I'm sure anyone alive in the 70s and even after that knows of the Zodiac. The Zodiac is a still unidentified person who took many lives in the 70s. But while everyone was focused on the Zodiac, there was an even more notorious person doing the same thing. And in some ways, this guy was even more creepy, going by the name the Doodler. He was called that because he would draw the victims before taking their lives. He mainly targeted San Francisco's LGBT area. But because of this meant police didn't really care as much, sadly. The Doodler is said to have done this 14 different times, but he's yet to be identified to this day. And finally on the list of unsolved mysteries, we have Slender Man sightings. This is one very big mystery which has been going around for many years. Ever since the late 80s, people have been reporting the Slender Man. Now, it didn't always have this name, but it was described as a tall, faceless figure. Sometimes it would show up in pictures, but then everyone at the time doesn't remember it happening. It's been spotted recently in the town of Gresham. Take this very old photo taken by a then 13-year-old girl in Ohio. And some teens in the Russian forest even saw something they also think could have been Slender Man in a picture. But do you really think Slender Man is among us, or is he just an urban legend people like to tell? Either way, it's pretty creepy to think about and definitely unsolved. Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the scariest unsolved mystery. I think it's the disappearing colonies that is so unexplained. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.